29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22. 21.
20.
19.
18.
17.
16.
15.
14.
13. 12.
11.
10.
8.
6.
6. What happened to 7?
7.
5.
4.
3.
2.
1.
0.
Hey, I'm here. I've got Jared from Jball Knives in the green room. He's getting himself situated in his recliner. So I want to remind everybody, if you're watching this or listening to this on Apple iTunes, there is a link to the full video that we're doing right now where you can watch everything. So you'll be able to see the knife that we're talking about that Jared made for my buddy Tino. You guys already got to see this, but why is there only 3 people here? There should be more than 3 people here for this. So, all right, let's go ahead and bring Jared in. He's still adjusting himself. I'm going to let you guys know. He seems a lot like Aaron Frederick, so this should be fun. Hey, there we go. So this is Jared from Jball Knives. Jared, welcome to the live stream. Oh, shit. So right off, first things first, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself? I'm going to give you solo layout, which always happens because I always forget to grab something. So go ahead and tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself and Jball Knives.
Just been making knives about 6-7 years now. I live out here in Houston area. I'm a fireman for the city of Houston. And just, on my days off, I make knives. Been doing it, like I said, about 7 years or so.
Well, that was way too quick.
Everybody always asks me, "You go full time?" And I'm like, I kind of already do it full time, with my schedule at work. So
yeah. So you're not just like a volunteer fireman, only a couple days a week.
Yeah, full time.
Full time fireman. Awesome. My dad was a sheriff's deputy back home in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a corrections officer. He was the head corrections officer for the county. He also taught corrections for 2 other counties, and I loved him to death. But being a corrections officer sucked his soul out of him and turned him into an insufferable prick.
Hey, I understand.
So yeah, I've got a bunch of questions. I've got one I have a list of questions set up so that I can ask makers or other knife reviewers and stuff like that, specific questions. But so how, I'm pretty sure that the story is the same for so many people, but how did you get into knives to begin with? I mean, it's pretty much the same story I get from every other guy that makes knives. Yeah,
mine might be a little different, because I get asked it all the time. Like, what got you started making knives? And it really, I was working as a fireman. I was sitting at home bored looking at YouTube videos and different like survivalist type stuff. And they had a video with a guy, and he was melting aluminum cans and then kind of making a foundry and then casting aluminum. I was like, that looks cool. I'm going to try to do that. I'm bored. I got enough time on my hands. So I went ahead and did that. And then it just slowly evolved into, instead of melting aluminum beer cans, it turned into, beating on steel and heating that up, and just slowly kind of evolved.
I never understood the forging. I forged one knife. I had a friend, he had a forge, and he made some really, really gorgeous knives. And he made canister Damascus with motorcycle chains, and he did it with nails and staples and all kinds of different stuff. And they were gorgeous. And he was like, I can teach you how to make a knife once if you want. So I went up to his shop, and we were beating on it, and 2 things were at play. He was not a very good teacher. He was one of those guys that wanted to step in and take the work from you and do it himself and think that was teaching. And I'm more of a guy that like, look, this is what you need to do. Stop what you're fucking doing and do this.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't, I'm retired military. I got 2 fucked up shoulders and beating on something for that long. I was like, this is your hobby? He was like, yeah. I was like, I don't know if we can be friends. This doesn't seem like fun.
Yeah. It's probably my favorite part of the whole process is the forging part. And I think it's just beating on steel, that's a fun part. It's kind of, with metal, working with metal, you can mess it up, but you can heat it back up and then kind of get it back to where you want it, to an extent, Yeah. But yeah, just the forging part's probably my favorite part. You know, you can just there's so much you can do, you know, with forging, not just with knives, just, you know, anything in general, making your own tools.
Well, I mean, I've made knives, but I never liked the forging process, and because mainly a lot of times that for me there was too many variables that could really get screwed up. I did stock removal, and I like just mono steel construction and just doing stock removal and just doing a solid heat treat. I made stuff out of 20 CV and S125B and stuff like that. But I have to ask, like, because I've never before I forget, before I get into any of these other questions, how are you getting that dark hamon like that? I've really never seen the hamon darkened like that. And then I saw one you did where the hamon was like the dark part was on the outside and there was the coloration was on the outside, not on the inside.
Kind of like a reverse of it.
Yeah, it was like a photo negative, and I was like, wait a second, that's I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. You just with the etching process. I etch it for a long time. You know, I get kind of a heavy etch on there, and then the polishing. I polish the whole knife, but I focus a lot just below the line and on the line, kind of to where the top. I polish it and go over it a little bit, but I don't use a lot of pressure, and I try to leave it darker, you know, on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I like it. With the second that Tino showed me, what he was getting made, he showed me a picture of one of your things. I was like, ooh, how come I've never seen this before? And I was like, how have I never seen this guy on my Instagram or heard anybody talking about it? Because, you know, I'm friends with so many people in the knife community now in the knife world. Being friends with Jim Skelton, who is also in Texas, by the way.
Okay.
And the boys over at Farm Forge, Elliot Williamson. I've met so many people in the knife world, makers and designers and stuff like that. And I saw this, I was like, I've never seen these knives. So this is gorgeous. And it's not just that it's beautiful, like it's comfortable. This would be something I wouldn't shy away from taking out in the woods and fucking some shit up with.
Yeah.
Like, it's W2, so it's going to hold up to it. So
yeah, that's like with me when I make the knife, I'm making it to be used. You know, it's not just made to sit there and look good. But I've noticed a lot of the people that buy them, I'll talk to them, a couple months later, a year later, and I ask them how's the knife holding up, and they're always like, I hadn't even used it yet. I'm like, well, damn, what are you gonna do with it? Just look at it all day? But
so what a lot of people do. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got $1,000 Grimsmo Norseman that's my day-to-day carry, and I'm out tearing. Yeah. You guys, Tino, the guy that bought that knife from me, I use it all the time, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're using a Norseman." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a tool. That's what you're supposed to do with it."
Yeah, that's what it was made for.
No, the sheath. Did you make the sheath, or do you have somebody that makes a sheath?
No, I've got somebody that does them for me out here. Actually, it's actually my dad. My dad does my sheaths for me. I don't tell people that most of the time, but he does them. He doesn't like to do anything kind of crazy or like a lot of tooling. He likes, keeping them kind of basic and to the point, but he does a real good job with them.
Yeah. So, what was your first knife? Like, when I say, how did you get into knives? I mean, did you grow up? Like, sound like a country boy. You're from Texas. I'm from Southeast Ohio in the foothills of the Allegheny Mountains. Like a knife, you always had a knife. Like, who gave you your first knife?
Oh shoot, I don't know. I remember my dad, my parents gave me a little, I forget, the Baron Son or some kind of little pocket knife, but I wasn't really into knives. I've always liked knives. I like guns. Yeah. I like, if I'm going to spend a lot of money, I'm gonna buy a gun. And so I've got knives, but I don't have a big collection of them. They're not like something I sit back and collect. I like them. I appreciate knives. But I've never been somebody that's just going to go and collect knives and have a whole bunch of them. I hunt and do all that, so I've got knives for that. But to be honest, I don't even have one of my own knives.
I don't either.
Yeah, it's like I make them, and it's like I spend all this time making it. I gotta, I can't just keep it for myself. I gotta,
And you know what? That's something that people don't know, because I made, until recently, I made a bunch of knives. And the main reason was my friends that had the shop that let me use the shop. they couldn't afford the shop rent anymore, and they were like, look, this is extremely crazy expensive, and so they've just basically were like, they moved into a garage. Well, Elliot is 6'6", I'm 6'3", his brother is 6'3". You can't have 3 people working in a knife shop that are that big. It's just there's just no way to have like 600 pounds of man flesh in a 2-car garage and still be able to do any work at all in that shop.
Yeah.
So, do you have? I mean, were there any knife makers that you kind of took inspiration from, or did you just kind of come up with your own kind of like your own feel?
Well, you know, when I first got into making them, you know, I would look around online and try to learn as much as I could. And you know, of course, you look online, you're going to see Nick Wheeler stuff, a lot of his stuff on YouTube. And the more you know, I'd watch his stuff, and I came to appreciate how much he puts into the details, you know, and the fit and finish of small little things, you know. And I think that's a big deal for knife makers. I know for me, it's almost more of a problem than anything, because you focus so much on the little things that probably 90% of people don't notice. But I'd say he's somebody that just learning online basically and seeing his stuff. I like his stuff. Then there's guys, can't remember his name. He did a lot of the frontier knives. Oh, good, I'm drawing a blank. But just kind of frontier, the rough forged looking stuff.
Yeah.
And I like those. And I've kind of just slowly evolved to where I try to get that rough look to them, but also a clean, you know, a uniform finish, to where it's not just, you know, looks like somebody forged a knife and threw some scales on it and called it a knife. You know, I want that fit and finish to be perfect on everything still. Yeah.
I like the fact that you did such a good finish on it, but you left that section of forged scale on it where you could see the rough work on it. You can definitely see that it's a handmade knife that way. It's not just something that came off a machine. There's a lot of times, like when I see knives that have, like, custom knives should have some imperfections. So I like to see like a little bit of imperfections in some of the like the grind lines. Like sometimes I don't want that. Like if I want a production knife, I want like that two-tone grinder satin and everything that they do on a machine. I want it to look perfect. But like for a custom knife, there's going to be some inconsistencies in the grind and some inconsistencies in some of the stuff, and that's what makes it unique, because you can see that you can see where the maker put the work into it.
Yeah, and where it's made by hand and not machine. You know?
Yeah.
It's hard to be perfect like a CNC would be.
Yeah. And to get it, the fact that you're able to take, like, somebody asked me why I like making knives, and I told them it's because I can take an unyielding material and make it do what the fuck I want it to do.
Yeah.
And it's just, at the end of the day, when you get done with it, you're like, I fucking did that. It's pretty cool. I kind of miss it. I have a grinder here at the house. I may have to figure out how I'm gonna. I'm just missing some of the small contact wheels for doing like finger choils.
There you go.
Because all I got's a 10-inch. I only got a 10-inch contact wheel, so it's really hard to do like a finger choil or
I need the small wheel attachment.
Yeah. So favorite knife you have and favorite knife you have made. Do you have a specific, like, is there a knife that you've made that stands out?
There's a couple when I think about it. I made one, it's probably been a couple years ago. Probably about 2 years now. And it was a hidden tang, a fighter. And I used some of Rob's Phantom wood on those as well on that one. But it was the first, well, not first, but it was one of the first bigger kind of fighter style with a guard and everything that I'd made. And that's what I want to. That's what I want to do more of. You know, is that style, the bigger knives. You know, it's kind of like a Bowie. But as far as knives that I own, I've got a case knife that I like. But,
so you're not, like you said it earlier, but like it's always funny when I talk with knife makers, because I have a case that's probably got like $15,000 worth of knives in it, and then I have an overflow case that's probably got another 3 in it. It's starting to fill up with stuff. And I for the channel, I do a lot of reviews. So there's at any given time, there's like probably I don't know. There's probably like 130 knives here in my shop out here in the
Uh,
garage.
Dang.
Just
Well, hey,
review
I
it.
gotta tell you, I gotta take that back. My favorite knife that I have is a buddy of mine made for me, Vince Molina with Dreamer Forge knives. He made me a knife that we traded knives, and that's probably the nicest knife I own. So I'd say that's probably my favorite one.
So my subscriber here, Patina Turner, you were talking about a guy that you were watching. Were you talking about Dylan Grace? The other guy that you couldn't think of?
Oh, no.
No, it wasn't. It
Dan,
wasn't.
Winkler, Dan Winkler. Is that right? Dan Winkler? Winkler knives?
Winkler knives. Yeah, you could be talking about Winkler. I mean, there's so many good knife makers. Like,
yeah,
you have I can't think of the name of the guy, but he's got knife making Tuesday, the knife making tips for the knife maker. He does videos all the time. Tactical armory or something. It's his like
I've seen all this stuff, and I've got I'm so bad with names. I can't. Walter Sorrells, I think.
Yeah, Walter Sorrells. Yeah, Walter. I love Walter Sorrells. Walter actually put a picture, like he put a picture of one of the knives I made in one of his videos.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I had done it with Rob's Wildwood. I did it with Rob's Redwood lace burl.
Okay.
And it was beautiful. And I finished the handles up all the way up to like 10,000. I used micro mesh, and I didn't polish it with like, it's not like I put it on a polishing wheel. I polished it by hand with micro mesh up to 10,000. And it came out, and it was and I did green anodized screws on it, and it was great. And I was going to take it up to a shop for consignment, and on my way up there, a guy called me and offered me $900 for it. He goes, you selling that knife? And I was like, yeah, I was going to take it up. No one bid on it, so I was going to take it up and put it up in this shop up here for consignment. I have 2 of them. And he goes, I want the one with the gray. And I was like, I don't know. I already told the guy, he's like, I'll give you 900 for it. I was like, well, I guess he's only getting one knife to put on.
Yeah.
To put up there. Done deal. You got that one.
Yeah.
So what's this? I'm looking at some of these comments here on the side. So I know it's called Beer and Blades Podcast, but I have a medical condition that now my doctor's like, well, guess what? You can't drink anymore. And I was like, really? That sucks. And he goes, do you like not having a butthole in the side of your stomach? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, then you should probably quit drinking. I was like, okay.
Quit drinking, huh?
Yeah, there's nothing more I love than having a beer on a Friday with a guest on and I can't do it. I have diverticulitis, and now I've got a section of intestine that's all scarred.
Ooh. And
they're like, if you continue with the things that you're doing, like the way you eat and things like that, I had to completely change my diet, take alcohol out.
Yeah,
so I really don't want to
drink anymore.
I don't want them to cut out. They were talking about like cutting out a 2-foot section of my intestine. I'm like, no, I'm good with not doing that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of the knife making process? I know you said the forging, like being able to like coming out at the color. Okay, now I have to ask you, what's your least favorite? Because I know mine was making handles.
I hate doing handles, but drilling holes I hate drilling holes, like on the tang. Like if you drill a bunch of, I just hate sitting there, especially if I've got like 4 knives going at once, and I try to do them all same step. Yeah, and I'll sit there and just drill holes in the tang, and I hate doing that. So it's probably the most boring thing there is.
You ever try to make carbon fiber? Hand sanding. I didn't so much mind hand sanding, like making handles and doing the hand sand. I just hated shaping the handles. That's like my least favorite. So I had some guy ask me, he was like, would you put new handles on this knife for me? I was like, no. And he goes, why? And I was like, it's going to be too expensive. He goes, how much? Yeah. I'm like, you tell me the price that is like the maximum you'll pay, and I'm going to add fucking $100 to it because I don't want to make handles for that fucking knife. No, I always hated doing handles, but have you ever made carbon fiber handles?
Yeah.
You can't drill a straight hole in carbon fiber. Like you think you got it, and then you go to put your pins through, and you're like, how is this fucking crooked?
Get that sharp bit.
So this is Maurice. He's like, who the hell is the jabroni, Mike? So this is Jared. This is Jared Ball from Jball Knives. If you pay attention to things I say in the other live feeds, you'd have known we were doing this today. So I've seen the knife that you made for Tino. is that recurve almost like a recurve buoy style? Is that kind of like your favorite blade shape, or
Yeah, I'd say my personal favorite blade shape. Yeah, that's the one I like to do. I probably do more like that than anything, I would think.
I saw on your Instagram that it was pretty much the blade shape that I saw the most. I saw some of them had finger choils and guards and stuff. So when you said you were going to do some with like full guards, are you talking like an actual like slide on guard, like Loveless style, like the
slotted and everything.
Yeah.
I've got one on my bench right now. I just finished up sitting over there that it's a bigger, I think the blade's 8 or 9 inches. Overall is like 13 or so. And it's got a guard and hidden tang. And I want to do more of those bigger, fighter style kind of artsy type knives. Just because I think, having a bigger blade, there's a lot more room on them for the Hamon line to kind of do different things.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. You should do like so I don't know if you've ever heard of Aaron Frederick over at Frederick Knives. Aaron's another custom maker. He's in, I think he's in North Carolina, South Carolina, something like that. Aaron's a really good friend of mine, and he made a smatch it that had a true Hamon, like a World War II smatch it. And okay. I was like, I saw the Hamon that you did on that, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like a big broad dagger with the Hamon going down both sides. The second I saw the Hamon on the swedge of that knife, I was like, if he made a fucking dagger, that's
something I want to do, is make a dagger. And I had a guy on my books to do one. And when I got to his name, it wasn't that long ago, he had some financial issues come up to where he was like, can I wait a couple months? And so we'll see if he comes back around. But that's something I want to do, is do a dagger, a bigger one too, where I can really get it's kind of like having a bigger canvas for an artist, doing the Hamon line. You got a bigger blade, you can do a little bit more with it.
So my subscriber here, Aiden, one of my paying members, what's the biggest you'll go, Jball? And I hope he's talking about like how big of a knife. Like I don't know, maybe he's taking a liking to you or something.
He's as big as I can. Is the biggest I can fit in my quench tank. And I actually just got a new quench tank not too long ago. That's it's probably about 30 inches deep. So I think the biggest I've done was probably the sword that I made when I did the Forged and Fire show. The sword that I made for that's probably the biggest blade I've done. I think it was 20.
That's right. You were on Forged and Fire. I forgot about that. I meant to mention that. So yeah, and here's the thing, like a lot of custom makers, and I know your books, what is it, like 16-month wait ish?
Right now, it's probably closer. It's backed up a little more, probably closer to 2 years.
But like I saw the price, like I mentioned the price in the video. That's not an insane amount of cash. You're talking like now I forget because I smoke weed. Yeah. Oh yeah, $70 an inch, and it's based on overall length.
Yes,
$50 down payment
with most knives. But those prices back when he ordered that one, I've gone up a little bit now to where it's I think with a Hamon line. If I'm doing a Hamon, it's around 85.
That's not bad though.
Yeah, and then non-Hamons I think are around 70, 60, 70. I don't get too orders for not a Hamon. In Damascus and things like that, I do a pricing a little different with that. But
do you make your own Damascus?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, hang on a second before we go any further. I got to do this. Hey, Metal Man Sean, and I know that somebody else dropped a super chat in here. That's for you guys. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know if you made your own Damascus or if you got Damascus built. I have made 2 knives in Damascus, and it was Damascus that I got. It was Damascus billet that I got. It was Alabama Damascus, and I was not pleased. I was not pleased with the steel, the quality of the steel. I had one that I was trying to nitro blue. I was trying to do like gun bluing, like the hot gun bluing in the tank of liquid. And
Yeah.
I had done the heat treat. I'd done all the polish I needed to do. I'd done the full grind. It was done. All it needed was it was going to have a wrapped handle. And I don't know if we just if I didn't normalize it enough when we did all the heat treat and stuff, but I took it up out. I brought it up out of the bluing solution, and the blade had just like took a big curve at the very tip. I was like, this knife was like, I was like, this guy already paid me for the majority of the work. Like I'm finishing it up. Like he's pretty much paid for this knife, and now I've got a knife that's going to be like 2 inches. I wound up making a knife 2 inches shorter, and the guy was cool about it. He was like, hey, like just keep what you got. He's like, I know you put a lot of work into it, but that's just not the knife. He's like, things happen. And I was like, no, I'll have to pay you back. And he just didn't want the money. He was cool about it. And then I wound up having somebody that did want the knife, and I was able to sell it. But it sucks when you put all that, like I had done like hours and hours and hours of work, and just the hand polishing to get that Damascus to where it was ready for etch. I was like, I got like 100 hours in this knife, and then to pull it up out of the nitro bluing, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
That's weird. It did it that step in the process,
Well, I mean, it's we had that liquid pretty hot because it's the corrosive, it's that corrosive mix that you use to get the nitro bluing like they do on that dragon scale Damascus, and it came, I'm not gonna lie, it looked amazing. It really did look good, except for the fact that the very front of it had a fucking big curve in it. I was like,
twist to it,
I was like, what the fuck?
That's yeah, I know the feeling, man, because it's like with chef knives, different things of getting them, they're thinner and they're longer from the spine to the edge a lot of times, and just long from point to handle too. And it's thinner, like I said, and you go to heat treat that, and I've had several. I've got probably 20 hours into them, and I pull them out of the quench, and they're fine. And then I'm looking at them, I'm walking them inside to put them in the oven, and I hear this ding, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'll look, and sure enough, it'll happen to crack, and it didn't happen in the quench, it happened 10 minutes afterwards,
Yeah.
I
only have ever had one knife warp like horribly bad to where like the blade stock thickness, I just couldn't even sell it. Like I had to make a new knife. Luckily, I had an extra piece of 20 CV at the time. I was using Elliott scrap, but one of the things that I've seen people do when they're, especially like with steels like S125E, 20 CV, where you're taking it up to like 2200 degrees and doing the quench. I don't do any preheat treat grinds anymore. I've seen too many blades like crack on the because those plate quenched air quenched steels. That's a violent act, taking that stuff from 2200 degrees down to 400 in like that. And so I just didn't ever do any preheat treat grinds. I saved money on steel, but I definitely did not save any money on belts when it came to grinding. You're like, God, this is a nightmare. The last knife I made for Tino after heat treat, after the complete heat treat, everything, you can still, like the finished knife, you can still score glass with the spine of it. 67 Rockwell S125E, and he's had it for over a year, and I've never had to sharpen it yet. So I know it holds its edge. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I thought about making some knives and some of those easier to work with steels, but then it's also like I like what you get with some of those. Like I like to tell people on the channel when I'm talking about knives, I was like, you can get away. Like most people don't know the difference between a super steel and like 420C. You really don't. Most people don't. If it's good heat treat, they're never going to know the difference. But as a knife maker and knowing how long that's going to last, and just looking at the sheer craziness that you can score a beer bottle with that knife when you're done with it, you're like, God, that is nuts. So I think all of us knife makers are kind of masochists. We're a little bit of masochistic. Like we like to hurt ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
What's this? So Aiden asks, what's your favorite hamon pattern that you've used?
Favorite hamon pattern? They're all pretty random, and they come out different. Some of them I've gotten to where I can get the line to follow the clay pretty dang good. Pretty close, sometimes something happens, and it won't follow as good, but I don't really have a favorite. Some will come out better than others. it's just kind of, I'm trying to think in my head of one that just came out real good that I can think of. There was a kitchen set I did a while back, and some of those came out real good on them. I think one was on a cleaver.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be
yeah.
A set of kitchen knives with like a full like hamon on a cleaver. That would be nuts.
Yeah, and that one came out. It was pretty wild. It had some crazy stuff going on, but I've kind of, when I first started doing hamons, all of them were the traditional high polished, and that was so much work, And so one time I had a customer, I was like, hey, let's try getting kind of a grungier look, more of a dirty hamon to where it's darker.
Yeah.
And did it, and it looked good. He liked it, and it was a lot less work. I wouldn't have to hand sand up to 2,500. I stopped at like I think 1,000, and so that's when I started doing them, almost all of them dark like that. Started off because it was just less hand sanding.
Well, it gives it a really unique look. And so, hey, hand me that knife back. I have a shop assistant. So, I mean, it gives it a unique look that you don't see in a lot of knives. So if anybody's asking what we're talking about, because I know there might be people that didn't see the video I did, and there's people so that's what he's talking about. That is, and the what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to ask is like, do you always do it so that you see the hamon on the swedge as well?
Yeah, I try to. Yeah, because on the model I do that's like that, I try to. Every now and then it'll get to where that hamon goes too far up on the spine to where you don't see it as well. But like I said, I've gotten them kind of dialed in where I can get it to follow the clay pretty good now. A lot of it's just your heat, how hot it is and how thick and where you put the clay at.
Are you using a gas forge or are you using a charcoal forge?
Gas. Yeah.
I was gonna say I see guys that use a charcoal forge, and I'm like, it's got to be so much easier to control your heat and get constant heat in a gas forge. I was like, there's times where like nostalgia and stuff like that, but if there's something that works better, why would you not use it?
It was, I first started off, I had a coal forge that me and my father-in-law made. He could weld and had a welder at the time, and we kind of just, I think it was an 18-wheeler brake drum tank something, but I made that coal one and used it a few times, and you can get stuff hot with that coal. Oh, yeah. But I would have to order the coal and they'd have to ship, and it wasn't very convenient to use, and putting out all that black smoke and stuff. And
it's a mess. There's a guy back home in Ohio that makes knives with a coal forge, and it's a mess. And like you said, you can get stuff way hotter than you want. You can actually burn the steel with, if you don't know what you're doing with a coal forge, you get too much air in it. Coal, people forget how incredibly hot coal will burn.
Yeah.
So this
I melted the first knife I was making was a railroad spike, and I melted the tip completely off. You can't, who knows where, just probably got the steel line in the bottom of a forge somewhere.
I don't know if you can see the comments on the screen on my side. That's Big Brown Bear. So Sean's a full-time knife maker up in Washington, Oregon. I can't remember if he's in Oregon or Washington. He's up in the Pacific Northwest. Great guy. Sean makes amazing knives out of some really exotic, crazy steels. He does like super stupid heat treats where like you would expect that knife to be super brittle, and you see him like just rolling it across a brass rod, and you can just see that whole edge flex. Super thin grind. Some of the coolest, smoothest, like outdoor Canadian style belt knives and stuff like that I've ever seen. So there you go, Sean.
Is he on Instagram?
Yeah, Big Brown Bear or Triple B Handmade. Yeah. Sean's a great dude. He's got to come on this live feed one of these times. We keep talking about it every once in a while, but like, he just forgets to get back in touch with me. So, and it's an apt thing. That dude is like a great big Kodiak bear. He's a monster. like I said, I'm like 6'3", 240, and when I see somebody, I'm like, good God, that's another big dude.
Yeah, you gotta be big.
So do you have a favorite, like other than like the couple of friends that you got, do you have a favorite maker or designer currently that's making anything that you think is just kind of off the charts, kind of cool?
There's so many of them. I see stuff I'll go through my Instagram feed and see stuff. I'm like, God, that thing's amazing, But I think the thing that impresses me that I can save is Baker Forge with the steel that he's putting out. You know, and I know a lot of different makers are using the steel, but but just some of the steel that I see it's pretty amazing, pretty nice stuff. That's kind of stuff that impresses me. You know, I guess the things that some of these guys are doing with pattern welded steel. You know, it's like how the heck did they do that? You know.
I want to talk about pattern welded steel a little bit because I'm kind of a pattern welded steel naysayer. I'm one of those. I'm like one of those things where I'm like, if there's a better way to do it, why are we still doing it? But we'll get to that in a little bit. Have you thought about trying to get any of your designs done like production style, or are you just going to make your own stuff?
Yeah, I want to. I've got plans kind of in my head of what I want to do. But I'm kind of the way my brain works is I if I've got orders to do, I'm doing those orders. You know, I hate having things hanging over my head and, you know, things that I need to do. And then I'm working on something else, you know. I want to get a production line going. I got to get through all these orders. I'm kind of done with taking orders for a while. I'll take them on if it's something that I want to do that sounds cool to do. But if it's just your typical knife that I've done 100 times, I don't really want to do that still. But yeah. I will eventually, but there's things I want to do. I want to get more of a production line going. And it'd probably be the model similar to the one that you got there. And then basically, yeah, I mean, I'd like to get something like that going. And then, you know, as soon as I get through those orders, and then I can also make more of the things that I want to make as well.
Sorry, Chino's in the background moving around trying to plug his phone and shit in because I've got this all set. He came over because he wanted to watch the live feed while we were doing it, and then I realized that with my new microphone and stuff that I've got, it sounds better. It's got, you know, I've got the stuff that I can do like sound, like we can, you know, all the echo stuff that I can do, but that means that I have to wear the headphones and he's not going to be able to hear it. I was like, I don't know what. Hey, there he is. There's the owner of your knife.
There you go. What's up, man?
Hey, Jared. Thanks again, man.
Use that thing.
I don't know if he can hear you. I told you I'm gonna wait till the honeymoon period's over, and then I'm gonna chop down a 2x4 with that.
Put it to work. There you go.
Yeah, I would. And like I sharpen all of his knives because I have a sharpening service, so all of his stuff.
I could hear him. It's just so delayed, so delayed. Yes, I have used it. It is sharp and it works very well.
Awesome. There you go.
I will say it is sharp. I was like, well, maybe I'll sharpen because I was going to tell you that. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. It is sharp. And that's one of the things, like before I started making knives, I was sharpening knives professionally for people, for the guys at Iron Forge. And I do like the Japanese style convex edge all the way up on water stones. I do it all freehand. I don't use machines. And typically custom knives are gorgeous. And then you're like, wow, that's great. I hope you don't have to cut anything with it because it's not sharp. There's a couple exceptions. Jim Skelton, his knives usually come really sharp. Big Brown Bear always comes sharp. His knives are insanely sharp. But then again, they're like, they're so thin behind the edge, they really don't even exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a couple knife makers, but there's a lot of times you get a custom knife and either they're ground so thick behind the edge, and it comes down and it doesn't transition well, and then you got to fight with that, or they really don't know how to sharpen, and they've got so many facets and everything down the edge that there's just not one consistent angle. And this thing is sharp, like real sharp. Like, there is no doubt.
That's what I see too. I get it because I'll get a lot of people asking me questions a lot on Instagram, and I try to respond to everybody, but a lot of them they'll ask me where I leave my edge at, how thick before I go to sharpen it. And when I tell them, then they're like, oh damn, I'm leaving mine way too thick. So I think a lot of guys, like you're saying, they just leave the edge too thick before they put their final edge on it. They just grind down and get it thinner than what they think they should. They try to be a little easier to keep sharp.
That little hollow ground knife, the one I was telling you about that you can score, the one I made for Tino, when I finished grinding, before I sharpened it, I measured the behind the edge and it was 0.009.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking thin.
Yeah.
Even if it's dull, it'll still cut. That's the nice thing. If you've got good edge geometry, even if the knife's not sharp, it'll still get by. You can cut through cardboard and stuff like that. So the edge is just, it's the cherry on top. Okay, so favorite steel to work with. I know you did that one at W2.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah. I like it. I mean, it's a tool steel and it's tough. A lot of people don't realize that you can leave W2 a little harder than what you can leave say 1095 and not sacrifice the brittleness, Yeah. It can hold up, and it's a tougher steel at a higher hardness. And I think it gets a bad rap sometimes too from people. I think they over complicate the heat treat, and they think that you have to have an oven, you have to hold the temp at this amount of time and do it. And the research I've done and the people I've listened to on heat treating W2 are people that have been doing it a lot longer than me. And the heat treat, I try to follow the same kind of heat treat regimen that they do. And I haven't had issues with the steel at all being difficult to heat treat.
Is it easier to, because like I said, I've worked, oh yeah, here, he's handing me, this is the one I made for him.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
So Kevlar handles, comes down, and that's a full hollow from the spine down. I didn't really need you to bring it. We're talking about his knives, not mine, but no, huh?
This audio's gotta be way behind me.
He's listening to it on his phone. But now I forget what I was saying. Oh, I made a bunch of knives in like 20 CV, and then I've made like several knives for him in S125V, which is it's nuts. Like I said, like after temper, you're still at like 67 Rockwell. Yeah. And it's a nightmare to grind. And then I made a knife for my friend David, and he sent it back to me for sharpening. I made a knife for him in 1095, and I was like, good God, this is so like, what would have taken me days to do on something like this in S125, I could do like literally in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
And I used one belt. Like I was like, holy shit, I literally used 3 belts to make this knife. Like this is insane. I'm going through like a ton of belts, and it didn't heat up as much. I was able to work it a lot smoother. So I honestly think that if I'm gonna make knives, I'm probably gonna do something like in W2. But the problem I have is I don't have a way to heat treat anymore. So it's like one of those things like, crap, now what am I gonna do? Like I've got other knife maker friends, and I'd be like, well, hey, can I bum your shop for like a few hours? But then I'm putting them out. So I think I'm just gonna have to.
I see guys sending things off to get heat treated all the time too. It's something you could do. I forget who the there's a couple places they'll do it. I know that I think you can send stuff off to Peters still, but I mean it's still expensive. In the big scope of things, it would just be cheaper for me to get an oven. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or should make you a little forge, man.
Oh, I'm in Southern California. Like you sneeze and this place tries to burn down. I don't think I want to burn down the landlord's house. And there's like, I really have a limited amount of places I could do it. I could do it out in the yard, but there's no shade. It's miserably hot. I'd be like, this is ridiculous. And there's no way that my wife is going to let me build a forge in the garage where she does laundry. Oh, it's not happening. There's no way. Yeah. So what was what is the way when you make, how do I say this? When you make your Damascus, are you doing like a canister Damascus with, or are you just doing the forge welded, folded, multi-layer?
Yeah. Just most of Damascus I've made has been like a feather pattern. And that's, I've done that, and then just some random Damascus, and then I'll, weld a piece in the middle to where it's like a Samai kind of pattern with Damascus as a jacket.
Okay, that's okay. Now that's a lot better. The reason I was saying I'm kind of a Damascus pattern welder Damascus naysayer is, one, I had that issue with that, but I see like I've seen so many knives on Forged and Fire come, crack and become delaminate and stuff like that, and I was like, there's a reason we kind of moved away from that. But if you're doing it San Mai, I'm 100% on board with that. That
Yeah.
would be the only way I would ever, like, if I was going to ever make another knife, it would have to have been a billet of something that was like clad,
Yeah.
like Gamma Core.
I think a lot of people, like, and before I even got into making knives, I had the same mindset to where Damascus meant it was a super steel, it was a really good steel. And it's not always the case. You know, Damascus is just the layered, you know, most makers, I think, are using like a 1085 or 1084 and a 15 and 20. And so it's not like a super steel you're using. So it's not, I think a lot of people think because it's Damascus, it's gonna be some, you know, super performance type deal. But it's, I mean, it's just the typical high carbon steel for the most part.
I've had problems with a lot of the newer Damascus stuff, like, and as much as I love the guys at Vegas Forge and stuff like that, but even the Nichols Damascus, the Chad Nichols Damascus, it's part of it like you've got two very dissimilar steels, and that's why I like the idea of, like, because it doesn't matter the hardness of your jacket if you've got the core to the right temperature. The problem is that people don't realize that those two different steels are going to heat treat at two different temperatures, so you're going to wind up with two different hardnesses. And doing the sharpening on stones because I do it by feel and sound, I can feel those layers hitting the stone, and I can feel that one of them is not cutting at the same. And then when you get the knife back, you can run your thumbnail down the blade and you can feel where parts of it are duller than others because it's held up. And so I like the idea, like you said, like a clad, like a jacketed San Mai style, but I really like the best of both worlds that you get is, Aiden Miguel says, that Pakistani Damascus has no equal.
Yeah.
But like the best of both worlds is I love RWL 34. It's one of my favorite steels ever. It's one of my favorite steels I've ever owned a knife in. It takes one of the crispest, cool, like most consistent. It's one of the cleanest steels I've ever seen. When you sharpen it, you get such consistency. But they make Damasteel, which is basically two versions of RWL 34. One just has enough carbon added to it that it shows up in the etch process. So it's monolithic with a pattern. And I'm like, that's right there. You get the best of both worlds. You've got the pattern and you've got a monolithic steel that's a good high quality steel.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of like the folded Damascus without a you know, not a core, without a core.
Yeah. I think a lot of it looks amazing. You know, I like to look at it just because I think some of those, like I was saying earlier, some of the patterns, some of the things these guys are doing, it blows your mind.
Oh, yeah.
I've never used, you know, a knife like that, or, you know, to where I know how they hold up performance wise. But I think a lot of people that maybe collectors and stuff buying them, they're not buying them to use. I think they're just buying maybe to look at. But I'm just amazed with the talent and what the guys do with it. You know, that's what's impressive.
Well, and I think that misconception, I've talked about it on the channel, that misconception kind of comes from the whole thing that Japanese swords were so great. And I've explained it. You know, my wife is Japanese. I was stationed in Japan for 13 years. I took Japanese martial arts. I own several like actual Japanese swords. I have a 400-year-old one that my father-in-law got for me. But I also studied about it and the reasoning behind what they did, you know, that they were working with really impure ore, which came from the black sands. And then that folding process allowed them to evenly distribute the carbon through the steel and bring the slag, the impurities to the surface. And so they would find the two different types. They had the tomahogany. Some of it was high carbon, some of it was low carbon. They would pick their elements, and then they would just fold them together so that you had that hard leading edge. And then they would do the differential heat treat. But that whole folding process didn't do anything really magical. And if you look at it the way we do it versus the way they do it, it's completely different. Like they're doing a completely different thing than a lot of the Damascus steels you see. What they're doing would be more akin to what you're talking about, like the clad. Because they actually did start doing the San Mai style, where you can see the two different elements of the steel together. So I think you're right. I think there's a big misconception that the folding the steel makes it so much better, and I'm like, I really don't think it does.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but it looks good.
It does. There's some guys. Alex Steele. There's a kid in Britain. has a YouTube channel, and he makes some of the sickest looking Damascus pattern welded steel I've ever seen. Like there's like he does a star pattern, and I'm like just having that thought, like how you stack those pieces and then fold them together to get that to come out. And I was like, I wonder how many times he fucked that up before he got it right.
It's like the one that the guy that presses me a lot that I see is Mareko with the Mamasi Fire Arts on Instagram.
I'll have to look it up. You'll have to send me a link to it.
Yeah, he's done some pretty cool looking patterns, you know, where it's like I don't even know where you would even start to get that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's pretty impressive.
So I have to ask, so since you were on Forged in Fire, what is it like? Because it seems really stressful when you catch clips of it. And I honestly don't like watching that show, but when I do watch it, I'm like, good God, it's got to be nightmarish to try and make a knife like that in those time constraints.
Yeah, like, well, for me, like I was saying earlier, I'm like OCD about fit and finish, you know, and so for me, I knew that was going to be the biggest problem with doing that show was going to be, you know, I can't look past something. I got to fix like a little bitty scratch always. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. I was going to just have to just get something put together. And I think once you get past that part to where it's like, oh, all I got to do is throw this together, it's not as bad. I mean, the having that time sitting there looking at it, it definitely adds some stress to it. But like the knives I made on the show, I wouldn't have sold. I wouldn't have left my shop looking like that. Just not enough time to make it look the way I would want. But as far as the show, like when you're filming it, once the clock starts, I mean, it's the real deal. They don't, you know, it's not like Paul's timeout. Let's do this and that. So it's the real deal, you know, as far as the time goes.
Yeah.
Like when I did it, I didn't even know what was going on until I saw the show, until like the guys that were on the show with me, they had done some things. And so I think one of them caught his handle on fire. And I had no idea any of that stuff even took place, you know, because you're just in your own little zone.
That's what I was curious. That was one of the questions I had. I was like, I was wondering if it was really distracting to have all that going on, but that you kind of answered that question. I could kind of see that. Like, you're like, I mean, there's $10,000 up for grabs. I gotta get my shit done. I don't give a fuck what's going on over there.
Yeah,
that's kind of. I
mean, like I did my thing, and they would come up and they would like you'd be in the middle of doing something, and the producers or somebody would come up, they'd ask you a question, and they'd want you to talk about what you're doing. So that, you know, that's a distraction, but it wouldn't, you know, it'd just be a couple seconds here and there, so it wasn't bad. But like I said, like for me, it was just I was doing my thing, and I didn't really know what was going on. The hardest part for me on the show was figuring out what steel was what, you know. I think what my episode we had to like a couple different pieces of steel that were part of like an armor suit that you had to.
I was gonna say I can't remember because they've done those weird ones where it's like, hey, you've got to go find, you know, you got to find 4 items and make it a knife, and it's like there's like ball bearings and like carbon steel and a piece of a railroad tie and a bumper off a Buick, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. See, mine. I think it'd have been easier if it was that, but it was like they had like looked like a Thor, like a big steel like body armor thing, and it had like lightning bolts on it, and had like a medallion on it, something else, and you don't know what the hell those things are made out of, you know. You don't know it's just steel, and so you got to figure out.
Oh, I didn't even think about that because you're flying into that blind, so you don't know what the heat treat on that should be. You don't know what you're going to be. That's that's.
And so with mine, I think that we had to make a Go My knife, so it was 5 steels. Or 4, I don't know. Yeah, 4 or 5. I don't remember. But it's not knowing you wanted to make sure the one you had as your core was a steel that was hardenable, because I think 2 of them weren't hardenable steels and 2 of them were, if I remember right. So you just had to make sure that what you went within the center was hardened. So they had hammers were one of the things you could choose from. And I knew a hammer wasn't like a high carbon steel, but I knew it had enough to where it would harden. So I just went with the hammer in the middle.
That's what I was talking about when I was going to talk about Vegas Forge, and I've kind of lost my thing. So some of those places are making just like, I think that people don't realize that a lot of those Damascus pattern steels that they're putting out are more for like scales or inlays. because there's a handle of folks that are making these steel, and they're using a non-austenizable steel in the Damascus, and it's folded in. And so even that's even worse than those ones I was talking about, where you can feel it on the stone, because you can't harden it. It just doesn't have. There's just no way to get it to harden.
Yeah.
Like I forget what one of the steels was that Elliot made a knife out of it. Didn't realize it until he'd already done it, and he just couldn't get it to harden. Like it just wouldn't work. He still made the knife and then told everybody. And then like that dragon scale Damascus. I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like the ball it's like little ball bearings of varying types of steel, and then it's just set in it's just in nickel. And people are like, oh, can you sharpen this? And I was like, I'd rather not, because
I know what you're talking about with the dragon stuff. And I've had guys like friends that have brought me some of those Pakistani Damascus knives that they bought, and they, I got this Damascus knife, can you show it? And they bring it, and like we were talking about the edge earlier, they'll bring them over, and it's like, did they even grind bevels in this thing? Because it looked like just a straightening. They just cut a little edge in there, and I've spent more time trying to sharpen those knives than it probably took those people to make it, because it's so hard to get a good edge on them.
I mean, you just can't, because a lot of times they're not even properly heat treated. Like most of the time, those knives aren't. The Pachymascus, it's not even heat treated. Yeah. So Will B says I remember the episode that he was on. I'd hate trying to make that without knowing what steel you're using. And I apologize, guys, if I falter into reading. I'm old enough. I need reading glasses, and they're pretty far away. That's that day when you realize that you can't look at your phone without a pair of reading glasses. That's that day you're like, fuck, I'm getting old. Yeah. And then you realize I woke up the other day and I looked at it and I was like, I am way closer to 50 than I am to 40 these days.
Closer to what? I couldn't hear you.
I said I'm way closer to 50 than I am to 40 these days.
Oh.
So favorite blade steel. Okay. But you don't have a lot of knives, so this is a weird one. If I typically, the guys that I have on, they have like big knife collections, and so I'm not even gonna ask that question. I was gonna ask you, if you had one knife for the rest of your life, what knife would it be?
Oh.
But I mean, you got a case knife. That's all you need.
But you need case, right? Skin it, do whatever you need to with that.
Yeah. If you could build your shop out without any cost constraints, how big of a shop would it wind up being?
Oh, it'd be huge. Be big. Like, so I'm in my shop now. My garage basically, it's, I think 20 by 25, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And everything's so cluttered in here, I can't even get around, it seems like. But I'd definitely go bigger. Probably 4 times this size, The more space, because I hate clutter. If I took my camera around and show you, it's just cluttered. Just everything is everywhere, But I know where everything's at.
No, I know.
But it's just so stressful to look at.
I did a shop tour of the studio, because I still get a lot of knives that come in for sharpening and stuff, the sharpening service and all that. And that's kind of how the channel started, because knives would come in for sharpening, and I do videos about them when they came in.
Okay.
But I've got this set up. I watched a video by Adam Savage where he showed like his cape, where he does all the tested videos, and he's like, everybody tells me how cluttered it is. He's like, but I've got it set up for me. Like I don't need to listen to all. And so I did a shop tour and I showed everybody, because I've basically turned this into a modular studio / workshop. Like, and somebody told me, oh, you should get a desk for the live feeds. Well, I've got a mic stand now it's a good one with like, it's got sound dampening and stuff. But the table that I do this on, you're on 3 milk crates and a piece of wood. I can take this and go right from filming a video to turning it right back into a workshop, or go from filming a live feed right back to filming videos and stuff like that. And it's like you said, it's cluttered. And if anyone came in here, they'd be like, what a fucking mess. But I know where everything is. I know exactly where the knives that I've got to review are. I know which knives I've got to get in for sharpening. I know where all the tools that I need are. If you came in here and looked, you probably wouldn't be able to figure it out, but I know where it is.
Yeah, no, I'm same way. I look around. I don't even want to look around right now, but I've got a box of brand new, probably $400 worth of belts just sitting on my floor, because I got too many other ones. I can't even hang them up. But that's a problem I got too. Is I kind of hoard things. It's like nothing's just waste. You know, it's like an old
Yeah.
belt. Like, oh, I can use this old belt whenever I need, but it's got like 50
I
old
can use
belts.
it. I can use it to soften the crown on this knife and clean up the spine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. That'll be fine for that. Like, it doesn't have to have a lot of cutting power. It's
Yep. And I'll probably never even use probably 90% of the belts that I got hanging up because they're older, but I just don't want to throw them out. Whenever it does come time to throwing old belts out, it's like it's hard to do. It's where I'll call a buddy of mine who makes knives, and I'm like, hey, I got a bunch of belts if you want them. I don't want because I just don't want to throw them away. They still got some life to them, but they're just not sharp, you know, like they were.
Have you ever made the mistake? Because I'm friends with Joe Maynard, and he and I were talking about it, and he's like, hell, man. He's like, I got the forge and everything. He's like, I got some of these steels. He's like, I tried S35VN and 20 CV. He's like, I didn't know you couldn't forge them shits. He's like, I fucked up a bunch of nights. He's like, that shit was expensive. Have you ever had an expensive fuck up in the shop like that?
Oh yeah. Well, most of it's expensive. Is the time that I put into it, you know, that I don't get back. Like I had 2 chef knives that I was working on, and they both broke the same day, the same exact spot. I mean, it looked like a mirror image of where they cracked it during the heat treat. And it was, I mean, that's 30 hours of work right there, just thrown down the drain.
Oh yeah.
And
easy.
so that's where my expensive screw ups come, is when, you know, just the time. I did have one knife I did out of the handle was mammoth tusk.
Ooh.
And did good here. And I mailed it off, and UPS decided to run the package over or something. It looked like tire marks were on it. But the guy, the customer sent me the handle, the tusk was just cracked right in half.
Oh, fuck.
And, you know, and it was insured. I insure everything when I ship it, just because of that right there, that possibility. So UPS actually refunded me or paid me to do it, redo it. But they made it such a pain in the ass. You know, they're questioning me, and they're wanting me to call and get like 3 other knife makers bids on fixing the knife. And I'm like, no, it didn't work like that. You know, this guy bought the knife from me. He wants me to make it. He doesn't want some other knife maker to fix the knife for him.
You mean this one?
Yeah, there you go.
I have a shop assistant today. This is I got a production assistant. Too bad he's fucking stoned. Well, I mean, it's not like I won't be later. I'm just saying. Like,
no, hey.
Yeah, guys, he wasn't joking. There was tire treads all over it.
Yep.
I've had.
I'll tell you, tire ran over it.
Yeah, it does. It looks like it got ran over. It's exactly. It fell off the back of the truck at the shipping and receiving plant, and somebody hit it with a fork truck. That's exactly what it
that's what I thought. It just ran it right over that handle.
Yeah. Now I've only ever had a couple things either get damaged or lost in the mail. I tell all my customers, like, look, if you send me something and it's lost in transit, like, that's not me. Like, I'm warning you right now. But the only time I've ever had something, I got to do this. Thanks, Aiden. The only time I've ever had anything get lost or stolen was because they wanted to insure it. And it winds up that you got to sign for it, and it goes back on the truck, and then you never see it again. They're like, we're going to put it went back on the truck. It's going to go back. You know, you can pick it up at the post office. And you call them, and they're like, it's not here. We got to have them check the truck. And I'm like, I'm never going to see that fucking package. Yeah. It's $500 knife. It's gone.
That's one of those, I don't know the correct way how it's supposed to go. If you ship something to somebody without it being insured and the UPS loses it, what do? You just keep the person's money and be like, sorry about it, take it up with the UPS. I mean, what's the etiquette, I guess?
Well, for sharpening, for me, because they're sending it to me for sharpening. I mean, I'm just like, well, you don't have to pay for sharpening. I never got the knife. And they're like, well, what about? I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't do anything about it being lost in shipping.
Yeah.
But the problem I've had is, even if stuff does, because like I said, those were the only time anything that came up missing, it was insured, and USPS won't like, you buy that insurance and they never pay out on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are saying use pirate ship now because they actually do pay the
That's who I
insurance
use,
out.
and that's who paid it.
Yeah,
But they
so
didn't make
like,
it easy. They made it difficult still. Like I said, they wanted all the conversations, like screenshots between me and the customer talking about the price, and then they wanted all kinds of stuff, documentation.
they kind of have to. Like, I mean,
Yeah, they got to cover their side of it. I understand, but then they wanted me, like I said, they wanted me to get bids from other makers on fixing it or redoing it. I'm like,
now
not how it works.
that I would have really gotten upset about it. Like, you want me to take something that I made and hand it off to somebody else no, fuck you.
To let them fix it. Yeah, and that's kind of what I explained it to them. They were cool about it, and they, like I said, they ended up paying the full amount. So
yeah, now that's the only issue I've ever had. I've never had anything get stopped. I did have a knife come in for sharpening, and I dropped it, and it snapped open. Like, I dropped it, and it landed. It was an assisted opener, and it was like a $400 knife, and it fell right on the flipper tab, and it snapped open, and it broke the tip right off the knife. And I was like, I gotta buy this guy a brand new knife. I was like, I can fix it, and he was like, no, so I bought him a new knife, and then I sent that knife that broke off to ZT, and they put a brand new blade on it, and I sold it for almost full price. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, worked out.
So, I mean, I was only out, I think I wound up being out like $60, but yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, that's the other flip side of the coin is when you're dealing with like sending back and forth such expensive stuff. Like,
yeah,
I have guys that routinely send me $8,000-$10,000 knives that are in for sharpening. I've had them on the channel, full custom, like Frank Fisher's Archangels. They're the cheapest those things go for is like $5,000.
Damn.
And I had a package come with 3 of them in it. I was like, that's a lot of cheddar in that box right there.
Yeah.
Like, when you open it up, you're like, oh shit. So yeah, that's the weird thing. Like, having a business where you ship stuff to and from people that's really expensive. It's nerve-wracking.
You know, when you asked earlier about my least favorite part, I think maybe shipping things is probably my least favorite thing. Just packing it. I hate it. I don't know why. It's just a pain in the ass to pack things up.
I do too. I made a run. I made a run today. Like yesterday afternoon, I was packing all kinds of stuff up and putting labels on it. I was like, God, I got to go to the fucking post office.
Yeah.
I just dread going, and it's literally like a mile and a half away. It's not like it's a long drive.
The good thing about pirate ship or any of those like stamps.com is you can print your own label and go put it in your own mailbox and they pick it up.
Yeah. I don't have a printer. I got to get a printer. And put it out here in the shop so I can, because that would be great because I could just hand it off to the mailman. But
I gotta email it to my wife and have her print it up for me. But
Jesus, put a saddle on that thing.
Because after that one break-in too, it's like I get over paranoid when it comes to packing things up to where I spend 30 minutes trying to wrap the blade up and then put all this different packing in there, and before I know it, it's like an hour and a half goes by, and I'm just now taping the box up.
Yeah, I not so much that, because like a lot of stuff I just wrap it up in bubble wrap and I put it in one of the the small flat rates and stuff like that. But my thing is like I've got dyslexia, and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten to the post office and I'm like at the counter, I'm like, fuck, I got to repack this up. So I will literally check the address like 6 times before I even put the shit in the car to go to the post office. I will sit out here for an hour validating addresses, and sometimes I still fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's usually when I'm sending something of mine out to like another reviewer, and then I get in a rush, and then I'll put the wrong address that they texted me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal because it's my stuff, so I'm not as concerned as I am like with a customer's thing.
I got to where like just copy and paste. They'll send me the address, and that way I just copy and paste.
Well, yeah, I still have. I don't have a printer, so I'm still handwriting. That's what I'm saying. I'm still handwriting stuff out. I'm gonna have to get like a laser printer so I can print out labels, even if it's just like a paper label and I can tape it on. That's
what we do. Yeah, just paper and tape it on.
That would make it easier. So I have to ask you, what grinder are you currently using? What are you using, like a Travis Wirtz 290 or?
Got a Broadbeck.
Broadbeck?
Yeah.
2x72? Yep,
2x72. As far as my opinion, it's the best grinder on the market. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah, I have.
But they're they've got, I think, and I don't think there's another grinder that has as many attachments, you know, to do as many things as what theirs are doing. And like I said, Vince Molina, the guy who made me a knife, he's part owner of Broadbeck. So he's a friend of mine.
That's why it sounds familiar. Like you said it, and I just couldn't place it, and that's why it sounds familiar. Yeah, I've heard of Broadbeck.
He's a great guy, and I'm not just using the grinder because he's my friend, you know. But the grinder, as far as I'm concerned, is the best one out there. Like I said, the attachments they got for it. Trying to think, the big thing, the surface grinder attachment is that's one of my favorite things.
That's I had to send I got a bunch of knives blown out water jet, and I sent them off for double disc grind up to not Bradford. Who is it that does it up there north? I mean, it's the same guy that owns Bradford Knives. Just can't Brad Larkin up there at Larkin. Okay. So Brad, I sent that stuff up to Brad. Brad's a great guy, and he sent that stuff back. But I'm not gonna lie, it would have been cheaper for me just to buy a surface grinder attachment for something and do it myself. Because then Bill came and he was like, "Yeah, here's your stuff for double disc grind." I was like, "Ah, good." He's like, 65 pieces, and I saw the bill, and I was like, "God, damn! I didn't know it was going to require a testicle, Brad."
Hey, getting knives flat, and it makes everything else a lot easier, you know. Yeah. To where I used to not do it this way, but I even got now to where I'll forge the knife out, clean the profile up, you know, then I'll surface grind the whole thing so I know that I've got, you know, 2 flat sides, and then I'll come back in, put it back in the forge, and then come in and put that forge texture back into it.
Well, there's nothing worse than trying to put handles on it and realizing that that it's not flat, even though you try as hard as you may have tried. There's nothing, because once you're at that point, there's not a lot you can do. If there's a low spot in that, you're like, fuck, I mean, what am I going to do? There's just going to be a gap there. You can kind of hope that maybe there's a low spot in the middle where you can't see it, but if it's back towards the edge, and then handle material. What's your least favorite handle material to work with?
Least favorite? I like how it looks, but I don't like using it. I'd say the Mammoth Bowler, like Mammoth Tooth, just because it's brittle and you gotta cut it with a wet saw, and just pain in the ass to do. But it looks good. It's not like I don't like it. I just hate having to work with it. Or Antler. I hate Antler because people want Antler. Everybody that hunts, it seems like they want a knife with an Antler handle, and it's, you know, if you're doing a hidden tang, it's fine, but it's just, like I said, I'm OCD sometimes about fit and finish, you know, to where if I've got, you know, a full tang knife, and I've got one side bubbled out and then one side's curved in, just because that's how an Antler is when you cut it, it just drives me crazy to look at it. But
I don't like Antler a lot of times because it's inconsistent, like you said, and then it feels weird in your hand.
It smells like hell when you grind it.
So if nobody knows what it smells like, it smells like, if you've ever been someplace where they make bone meal for like dog food, where they grind down bones, that's what it smells like.
Yeah, I've never been that guy. Yeah, or burnt hair, just something.
Yeah. If you're wet grinding it so it doesn't overheat, it's like that's the best way to keep the dust. And it does. It just smells like wet dog, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
there was a place close to where we used to live where they made bone meal so they basically get all kinds of like cattle bone and stuff like that and grind it down for dog. There's a lot of bone meal in dog.
I used to play baseball, and when I was in A ball in high A or low A, I don't remember, but there was a town up in Iowa I think it was called Clinton, Iowa, and the whole town smelled so bad. And I think someone had told us that it's like they have like a dog food plant there or something.
I
don't think I could have lived in that town.
We had a paper mill. We had a paper mill, and I never realized how bad it smelled until I joined the Navy, and I came home on leave, and I was like, "Good God, what is that fucking smell?" And everybody was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Wait, is that stone container?" They're like, "Yeah." You can't you can, when you live there, you can kind of smell it. You get like it's hard to explain what a paper mill smells. That stinks. That's what it smells like.
Yeah.
It stinks. But like I left when I was 17 and joined the Navy, and I was gone for like 2 years before I came back. And I came back and I drove into town. I was like, my God, what the fuck died?
Yeah,
They were
like nose blind to it, you know?
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say my least favorite material to work with would either be carbon fiber, and not just regular carbon fiber, because regular carbon fiber, like linear carbon fiber or the checker, it's a pain in the ass. But if you're drilling it from the top, it'll blow out on the bottom. You can sand it out. Marble carbon fiber, you can't drill a straight hole through that. Like you can watch the drill bit drift as you're like there's no way I'm getting a pin through that. Kevlar, that checker weave Kevlar with the wire in it.
How is that working?
You have to clear coat it. Like we figured out we had, so the cool thing about it is it's got that weave pattern, and it's got the wire in it, and you can torch it and you can get some interesting colors. So it's yellow. It's like yellow, like those cabinets behind you, yellow when you first start. And then you torch it. I think the big one I made for him has a better showing on like the actual color. But the fact is it's not real tightly bound. And so it just kind of blows apart. It's like somebody vacuum sealed fiberglass insulation out of your ceiling and like sealed it down, and then it stayed. Oh shit. Well, thank you. Yeah, here's the other. He had me make 3, like he's an asshole, so I had to make him 3 different knives with the same hand material. So you can see, like, you can get some torch stuff on it, but it just kept coming apart. And so we sent it to my buddy, and he used vehicle clear coat and sprayed it with vehicle clear coat so that it would stop coming apart. But I mean, it's a really good looking material.
Yeah.
And you know, but here's the other one. This is the other one I made. But you can get some really good look with it. It's just so loosely bound until you coat it that it's just a nice.
Once you coat it, it worked a little easier. Yeah,
but the thing is, like I sent him pictures like, this is going to cost you extra. I had a picture that I sent him with all the little copper wires. They were all stuck in I had wires like it looked like I'd stuck my hand in a fucking cactus. Because all those little copper wires were blowing out while I was grinding it. And they were like sticking into my hand. And I was like, this is uncomfortable, and I'm charging you extra. So luckily, I think there is no more of that material, correct?
Correct.
Okay. As long as there's no more of that material. This is the last of it right there. Because
that's it. There you go. Don't have to mess with it anymore.
Yeah. But no, I would have to say, antler for the smell. I have some shit that I could possibly send you if you were interested in it, because I don't think I'm ever going to do it. I have got an antique, like a full swordfish bill.
Really?
Yeah. And I've seen it. Once you stabilize it, it looks a lot like ivory.
Okay.
I've seen it. It looks really cool. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to use it. It came off the Star of India. I knew the first mate on the Star of India out here. It's the oldest constant sailing, sailing ship.
Really?
Yeah, and it's out here in San Diego. It's called the Star of India.
Okay.
But it was in a storeroom, and they're like, we got to get rid of this shit. And he was like, he brought it to me, and I want to say it's probably 3 feet. So you've got some varying sizes, because it tapers down. I would probably just have to cut it into pieces. Like if you told me about how long, I'd send it, because I don't think I'm ever going to do anything with it, because it needs stabilized and stuff like that. But I've seen it done, and after it's stabilized, it looks like ivory. And from what I understand, it's pretty easy to work with, and it's nice and light. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested. That'd be kind of cool.
I'll send you a picture of it. On Instagram. I'll DM it to you. Future plans. What's the big future plans? I know you said that like you basically do this full time. So is your first passion being a fireman, and then this is just like your other?
No.
No, that's just so I get a pension.
Yeah, I want to do this full time. And I also, like I said a minute ago, I played ball to where I do batting lessons and hitting lessons with kids. I usually do that in the evenings from 4 o'clock till 8 or so. So I do all 3 of those things, the fire, the baseball, and the knives. But knives is probably the thing I like the most, out of the 3. I'd like to get to where not that I'm busy enough to where I like to where I move quicker and I get things done quicker, to where I can eventually get, be done with the fire department.
It's a pension. You're in it. Yeah. How long you been doing it now? How long you been a fireman?
I've been with Houston for 10 years now, right at 10.
It's like being in the military. Once you hit that 10-year mark, you're like, I fucking may as well stick it out. Like I'm halfway there.
That's but see, my mindset, I'm like, I'm done. I don't even want to go. Just because it keeps me from doing what I want to do, which is, sitting out here in my garage making knives. And it's our schedule with Houston. We'll work 24 hours on, then 24 off, then 24 on, and then 5 days off. So you work 2 out of 8 days you work. So that's why when people are like, when are you going to start doing knives full time? I'm like, well, fuck, I do it full time. I just also work for the fire department.
That's not a bad work schedule.
No,
I get it. If it's not what you want to do, when I retired from the military, I wanted to take a government job, and I fucking hated it. I was making 6 figures a year, and I fucking hated every minute of it. And I quit, and I started doing the knife sharpening full time, and I started doing this full time. I had other jobs for a while. I did insurance, and I did construction and stuff like that. But that's just none of it was ever what I was passionate about. I was passionate about what I did when I was in the military, and then when I got out, I just didn't have that. I felt lost, and then I got into the knives and I got into the sharpening and making knives. And I was like, yeah, this is something I really want to do. And now I've got, this is what I enjoy doing, is the reviewing knives, making the videos and stuff like that, so that people can see all these knives and make informed decisions on what they're buying and get to meet new makers and stuff like that. Because even like you were on Forged and Fire and stuff like that, but I had never really heard about you until Tino showed me that knife. And I was like, that's kind of a shame. And I mean, I might only have like 8,000 subscribers or so, but still that's, there's like 40 people here right now that are getting to see and hear you and bring that to it. And it's,
I appreciate that.
Well, and the knife community is so tight knit. Like it really is. Oh, that's what I'll ask you. What's your favorite knife show to go to? Have you been to any of the bigger shows yet?
No. And that's what I meant to say that earlier when you were asking about, production and I was talking about how I can't really do anything I have these orders hanging over me. So there's knife show. I want to go to Blade Show. I want to do the one here in Texas, that new one, the Texas Blade Show. But it's like that. I think Blade, they reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in coming, and I'm like, no, yeah, I want to, but I don't have time to build an inventory of knives to take. I'm too busy working on orders. And I know a lot of people, they'll make a name for themselves at Blade Show or something like that. And I just hadn't had a chance to build the inventory to go. And I could do it. The people on my books, they know it's a wait, but I think I did an auction. It's been about a year and a half ago. I made a knife for an auction, and I had like 5 people that were on my books contact me like, hey, just, check and see where I was at on your list. I know I ordered it, a year ago, and I saw you doing this auction. I'm like, God. Yeah, sorry, I made a knife to auction before I made yours, but I actually had that knife put down to make in my books, I put auction knife and I had it in my books. And
that does, like, I was doing a knife for a guy, I was doing a large knife for a guy, and I had made a couple little Japanese style Kiridashis, and he saw that, and he's like, oh, my knife's not done, but you got time to do that? And I was like, those literally take me a day. Like, your knife it's a labor of love because, well, you want it a lot. My buddy Polly down here, I think you and Polly would get along. Polly just posted, he's like, I want to be rich enough to where I can wipe my ass with towels. And he was like, he saw me crack because I saw that comment. He likes to throw shit in the comments to try and make me laugh. And the second I saw it, I started laughing. He was like, I made Mike crack. I saw it. So if there was one thing you could get right now for the shop, for making knives, what would it be? Like the one thing that right now you'd be like, that's the thing I need right now.
It's hard to. There's so many things. Probably there's things that I need and there's things that I want. I'd say the thing that I want would be a power hammer. I don't really need it. I got a press. I've got a coal iron press that I use, and it does. Yeah, that thing does everything that I would need it to do. But I'd like to have a hammer just to have make some noise.
There's some. I just saw one Don't ask me why I looked shit like that up. I just saw one go up for sale for like $2,200, and the only thing it needed was the straps.
Okay,
You know,
where'd you see that at?
fuck, some website somewhere. It's fucking random shit. Because I don't sleep. Like I literally fucking maybe get like 3 hours sleep a night. That's why I get so many
We're on
videos
the
out.
same schedule then.
I just like, so there's, I'm like, my brain's like, oh, let's look, what's a power hammer cost? And I was like, oh, $2,200. And I was like, part of me was like, buy it. And I was like, for fucking what? And I was like, and then the voice in my head was like, just to see your wife's face when it shows up. And I'm like, that's a good way to get, that's a good way to get divorced. Dummy.
Yeah, but I got the same. I probably sleep 4.5 hours. I'll stay out here working out here in my shop. I usually go in at about 3:30 in the morning. I'll shower and go to bed. Usually go to bed about 5 and then get up at 9:30, 10 and come back out here and start over. But it gets to where it's like if I'm not out here working, it's like I'm like I need to, like, something's wrong, you know.
Yeah.
Supposed to be out here doing stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Going back to there's things I want. Like I said, it'd probably be a power hammer. And things that I need, well, I guess I don't even need that. I just want that. Would be, I was gonna say, a new anvil, a bigger one. The one I got now, it's right here next to me. It's, I think, 150 pounds. But I just want some with a dead flat face, you know, to where it's. And this one I can take somewhere and have them flatten it for me.
I was gonna say you could always just weld on a new layer and then grind it.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't know, not traditionalist, but I don't want to mess with it. Thing's old. Yeah. I just want to let it stay in its original form. You know, I don't want to mess with it.
I'll tell you, I saw something the other day that I truly I wish now, you know, with doing stuff with knives and stuff like that. I had a great uncle that had one of these. Have you ever seen a fractal vise?
A frackle vise?
Fractal. So it's a vise, but it's got all these little half moon shaped pieces, and they're just tiny. There's hundreds of these pieces, and so anything you put in, you can tighten it down, and it'll all shift. Let me see. I can pull up a picture of one, but a fractal vise is a really. I'm trying to pull one up.
I've seen one similar to that, but it's got like a bike chain almost on the inside of it. In different little, you tighten it, kind of takes the form.
Yeah, they're kind of like that. Let me see here. But I'm trying to pull up a picture of one because I had a great uncle that had one of these, and it would have been. I can share this right now. But for making knives, like this would be something that if you can find one. Let me see if I can share this screen and make it full size. Chrome tab. But this is what they look like. I don't know if you can see that, but all those little pieces in there are independent little half moon pieces, and so when you crank it down, I'll send you a picture of. There's a guy that this is a video I saw. This is the YouTube video that made me think about it. This guy was restoring one, and for knife making stuff, that would be great because you could put awkward shapes in there and then crank it down, and you don't have to worry about like how you're going to clamp. You could use it like a drill press vise, and you could put the whole knife in there. And you don't have to worry about the shape while you're drilling your shit or trying to use clamps. It's brilliant. But I had a great uncle that had one, and I don't know what ever happened to it. In hindsight, being 2020, I would have been like, I wish somebody give me that. I think my grandfather had it. I think when his brother died, he got it, and then I just don't know whatever happened to it. No one knows. And
It'd be good to get your hands on it,
right? I don't think they make 3D printed versions of them. But they're like plastic or aluminum. They were like steel. That thing was great. And I remember playing with it when I was a kid. I'd put different kinds of stuff in it. So if I had a tool that I could get a hold of that was not like prohibitively expensive, it'd be a fractal vise.
Yeah.
That'd be like I said, you clamp anything in it. What was this?
That's another, like I want an old Wilton the bullet vise. It's something I'd like to get to.
Yeah. With the big spin crank on it, so you can crank it down.
Cheap vices, made in China type stuff, and they work, they hold stuff, but I just want something with a little more history to it,
Yeah, Well, and there's like you said, a power hammer. There's not very many of those that are getting made anymore. You're gonna wind up probably getting an antique one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of history behind that. I was talking with a guy that was on the podcast here not too long ago. The guy that owns Jack Wolf Knives. He's getting slip joints made, and we were talking about how like basically there's the company in Pennsylvania. What is it? Great. Oh shit, I can't think of it now. At any rate, there's only one company here in the United States that's really making high quality slip joints, and they're in Pennsylvania, and that shop is the same tools that they've been using for like generations. No one knows how to fix them. There's only a couple people that know how to work them and stuff like that. And I was like, it's just kind of sad that some of this stuff is just kind of lost to some of the new technology, and not all the new technology is better, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Sometimes, keeping it simple is better.
Yeah.
But that's another thing too. I'd like to get a CNC, like a mill, something that could help make cutting slots and guards a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot better with. Yeah,
it's funny. I've got a mini mill, one of those smaller,
like a grizzly.
Yeah, like a mini mill drill combo, and I use it for drilling holes. Basically, it would work. It would do the things I needed to do. I just don't know how to use it in that capacity. My milling, machining knowledge is just not there. To where if I could get somebody come in here and give me like a one day, just a crash course on how to use a different tooling that I got for it, I'd probably get things done a little bit quicker.
There's a guy that did a whole series of videos of how to turn one of those Grizzly mini mills into a CNC, and how to hook it to the computer, and how to put on the motors. I'll try to find. I can't remember. It was really interesting. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Great Eastern Cutlery. That's what it is. Thank you very much, Patina Turner and Happy Haptics. I've had a bunch of concussions. I've taken martial arts for years, and I'm old. I forget things. Thanks, guys. So, last question I had on here. Actually, I think I asked all the questions. We have asked all the questions.
Nice.
We've asked all the questions. So I want to ask, what is your, when it comes down, I know we were talking about thin behind the edge, and I wanted to re-elaborate. Like, do you measure it like with calipers and stuff? And so what is about what behind, I didn't measure this. That's why I'm asking. I don't have my calipers out. About where do you start getting ready to grind an edge on it?
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to get the calipers out and look. I could look and tell you, but just off the top, probably around 1,000th, maybe.
Yeah, and that's kind of in that sweet zone, like 0.02, 0.01, somewhere in that range is usually really good. When you start getting to like 0.03, it's starting to get a little bit thick behind the edge.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is I'll get them a little thinner prior to heat treat than what a lot of people do as well, because I don't like to grind with the Hamon. I feel like with the Hamon, it's kind of, if you think of it like you got a lot of activity on the outside, and the Hamon goes all the way through the steel. So you have a lot of activity, and I think the activity on them as you get into the steel gets a little less, to where you'll have more just the line and not all the different stuff. So I don't, and we're probably talking about, thousandths of an inch where it really doesn't make that much of a difference, but in my brain, it does.
Well, I mean, you're getting good results, so I wouldn't fucking change it.
Yeah, so I just try to I get a little thinner prior to heat treat. That way I got a little bit less grinding on hardened steel, and
yeah. Well, I mean, if you're doing it on like mono steel and you're not trying to get a Hamon, it's fine. Like I have found that it's a lot harder to fuck up a bevel on hardened steel than it is on like soft steel. You're like, oh shit, I got into it too hard, and you're like, on something you've already gotten to like 64, 65 Rockwell, you're like, oh, this is so much smoother. I'm going through more belts, but I don't think I'm gonna fuck this bevel up as badly. I got a guy here. So Patina Turner wanted to know, and I saw him ask it earlier, and I forgot to ask it. Do you get to keep the knives after Forge and Fire? Or do they keep them?
If you win, you don't get anything. You get your check. I think the second place guy gets his sword back or his final whatever weapon it was. Then the one you make while you're in studio, the first 2 rounds, I don't get that back either. So I don't have any of them.
I mean, but you said you probably wouldn't have wanted it anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, people ask me all the time, they're like, what's the most expensive thing you've made? And I'm like, I made a sword for $10,000, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what people will be like, oh, that sucks. They didn't let you keep your sword. And I'm like, well, I basically think of it as I sold it for 10 grand, you know? And
right. That's
so
the most expensive thing I've ever sold.
Yeah. So.
No, I'm glad we got to do this. I mean, unless you've got, let me see if there's anybody anybody got any questions with Jared before? I mean, I know it's what, 11 o'clock there in Texas, but you're like me, you don't sleep.
So this is my prime working time right here.
Right. Yeah. We're taking away from money making time. I literally have a coffee pot here in the garage studio and a coffee pot in the kitchen. Actually, I have.
Yeah, that's what I keep sipping on is coffee right here.
Yeah. So let me see here. Give everybody a couple minutes to ask, see if anybody's got any questions. Breeze Ratchford's here. Breeze, what's going on, guys? If you didn't already hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. If you guys, while I'm waiting on a couple questions, just remind everybody, if you're listening to this on Apple iTunes, you can always follow the link down below for the full video because, well, Apple iTunes doesn't pay me, and if you watch the video, I get ad revenue. So that's how I keep the lights on. Do you ever have a guilty pleasure, Jared, and go watch? Did you ever watch Cutlery Corner? Remember the old TV show? Yeah, Cutlery Corner used to be Frost Cutlery shit on like 2 o'clock in the morning on TV.
No,
They have a live feed channel, and we've been known to. I have paying members. We have a server. We have a chat server. It's a lot like Discord, but it's called Gilded. And we will watch. I'll tell everybody, hey, I'm going to Cutlery Corner. They have a 24-hour a day live feed from Cutlery Corner on YouTube, and we make fun of all the shitty knives. We have our own like little chat
selling stuff, kind of like an infomercial type deal.
Yeah, it's the old. You remember Frost Cutlery, like those garbage fucking bullshit knives that used. It's like Home Shopping Network.
Yeah, Home Shopping. That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
exactly what it is. But it's just like shitty knives. And so one night I was drunk doing a live feed, and these guys talked me into, oh, we're gonna pay for all these knives, and I was like, all right. I was like, if you pay for the knives and get them sent to me, I'll do videos about them. And then I sobered up the next day and realized that they had paid me enough to buy 5 knives for Cutlery Corner Network, and I was like, these aren't worth the fucking shipping we paid. I had one of them, I carried it for a day, and the blade opened up, and the lock bar snapped all the way over, and I was like,
oh hell,
shit. Yeah, so no, that's
the kind of stuff that just screws up the whole knife industry too. You know, you got guys sitting in their garage, you know, banging on steel, you know, spending 30 hours making a knife and selling it for what, you know, a couple $100, and then they get somebody bitching, I can buy a Damascus knife on TV for, you know, $20. It's like
I went off screen. I went off screen to go ahead and grab. I'm still upset about this. I'll show you what we're talking about. Because everybody's like, did somebody say Cutlery Corner? So this was the result of said shopping spree.
There you go.
Those are plastic handles.
Nice.
There's a couple of them. There's this one.
What the hell is it?
It's like, it's supposed to be a chick on a motorcycle. Yeah, it's a girl on a motorcycle. They're all assisted opening. They're all garbage. Like you can see it in the video. Like if I go like this, I can bend the entire. It's a piece of shit. They're fucking horrible. And I got 5 of these things here at the house.
That's funny.
So, well, this everybody asked what your Instagram is. It is Jball Knives. It's Jball _knives. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Jball _knives on Instagram. And that's how they get a hold of you if they want to try and get on your books.
Yeah, I've got Facebook and then Instagram, and I've got a website that I never check, and an email that's linked to that website that I never check. I'll check
Yeah, I got
every.
one of those too.
I know it's so it gets overwhelming sometimes. That's the thing, like social media. Jesus, man, it's like that's all you need somebody to. That's like a job on its own, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I was telling somebody they were reaching out to me about sharpening, and I was like, "Wow, it took you long enough to answer your email." I was like, "Motherfucker, I got like 1,200 unread emails right now. Like, I have 3 email accounts, and there's like 1,200 emails between the 3 of them." I was like, "You're lucky I even responded."
yeah, no,
So,
and I've only got I think on Instagram 12,000 followers. So I don't know, like some of these guys with 100,000 followers, I don't know how they do it. You know, if they just ignore people. I try to respond to everybody on there, and I think up to this point I have.
well, I'm gonna try and hook you up. I'm gonna try and hook you up with my buddy Jared. He has Jared Neves. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's sitting, I think, at 130,000 subscribers right now.
Oh wow!
He's got several videos that's gotten over 1 million views. So we'll try and get you some more business. I'm gonna see if maybe get you in touch with him and see if you can get on one of his live feeds and just talk about stuff, show some of your stuff, because like I said in the video, I like to bring stuff to my viewers that is interesting and new. And if it's good quality, I'm going to say something that a lot of people get pissed about. Like, a lot of people are bitching about the Chinese made knives and stuff. And I would love to be able to just only buy American made stuff. That would be great. But the fact is, I really can't. And to run a channel, I'd only be able to do 1 video a month. And the fact is, like, everybody that's complaining and bitching about the buying Chinese knives are making those posts on social media with a Chinese made phone. And I'm like, you don't get to pick and choose which products, you know?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what American computer or American phone you're using. So I'd hazard you to shut the fuck up. So, but yeah, this thing's great. I love it. I love the fact that I got to have it here for a while. Fucking amazing work.
Thank you.
I think Shopcat just walked in because the light above me popped on. So
tell him keep some oil on that thing. It'll brighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I wiped it. I've been messing with it. And I wiped it down, and I can make anything rust, like D2. I like D2 steel. Like, I'm the worst person to give D2 steel. I do believe that I'm gonna have to use a little bit of micro mesh and clean up some spotting on the handle, because I was playing with it. I'm just a big sweaty fuck. I don't know, man. But yeah, I need to get it cleaned up before I send it home with him tonight. So, Jared, it has been a blast. You're welcome to come. If you want to come back on the channel, if you wind up with something you want to show to everybody, just let me know. You can reach out to me. You got my email address now too.
Yeah.
So we can always, like, if you got something cool that happens, or if you wind up with new endeavor, we can always talk about that in the future. So, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. This is a lot of fun. It's not. Oh, okay. So Blue Monty Ninja is asking, any tips for an inspiring bladesmith? And I think that'll be our last. Let me give him
any tips. One thing I tell people when they'll ask me stuff like that is, when you're buying tools, buy the best you can. That you can afford. I'll have a lot of people that, I was going to get a 2x72, but I ended up getting a 2x42 just to save a little bit of money. And I was the same way at first. And then 3 grinders later, I finally have the grinder I like, whereas I should have just bought that from the get-go and saved a lot of money. Because if you do the hobby, it's one thing if you don't really know if you like it, you want to try it out, get some cheap stuff. But once you figure that you want to pursue it, then buy once, cry once is probably
that's exactly. I was getting ready to say it, and Pitt, one of my subscribers down here, said it too. I say that a lot about buying a knife.
Yeah,
at this point there are a lot of more budget knives that you can get away with that are going to hold up pretty well and are good quality. But in the long run, you're going to wind up with something that's going to last longer. When there's a lot to be said for buying something that maybe not the top end, but like there reaches a point where when you're past mid range, and just below name brand, like in that range, I think that's about the best bang for your buck. You're getting a really good product that you're not buying just the name, and that company's trying to make a name for themselves and they're putting out a quality product. You see that a lot with new companies that are coming out and putting stuff out on them.
I think like with Broadbeck, that was some of them is their prices, they weren't at the top of the top of the totem pole with pricing. They were in the middle, and the quality is at the top, and it's just they're a younger company and they're trying to, make the name for themselves. And that's
I like Travis Wirt's grinder. It was a pretty good grinder. I used the one that they had at the shop, and I like Travis. He's a great dude. He's a fucking nut. I don't know if you've ever met Travis Wirtz.
Nah, I hadn't met him. I know.
He's insane. Like I've never seen anyone drink that much coffee. Like I drink coffee constantly, and I'm like, you shouldn't drink that much coffee. So yeah, the reason I liked it so much was at the time before those guys came on the market. Travis was offering, like you were saying, the most amount of tools. It was like $3,900 for a pre-wired grinder with the speed control built in. Whatever wheels and stuff you wanted were part of the package. You could pick and choose like how you want to do it. And he had all the tools. But yeah, you're right. Now there's like those guys, there's a couple other companies that have got really good grinders that are out on the market. And it's pretty good and pretty competitive. But yeah, you're right. I've seen them. Those are really good looking grinders. So
yeah, and I think, people just do their research on different things. Don't be in a rush to get a certain tool or whatever it is you need. Do a little bit of research, and you can find quality that's not gonna be at the top of the line as far as the price goes. But
and don't buy it. Like if you're gonna buy something like that's that expensive, but like a grinder, get it directly from the company. Don't like get it through a vendor, because if you talk to the company, a lot of times they can help. Like I said, like Travis Wirtz, when I was thinking about buying one myself, he was like, okay, what are you going to be doing? And we can kind of like play around with what tools you get, and that can affect the price. He's like, I can work with you and I don't have to send you everything. And maybe you need this tool, but not this one. And we can change it out as opposed to what most people get. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So going through the actual company. Plus if you buy it directly from the company, they make more money than they do if you go through a vendor. So
and I know and that's, I think like a grinder, like that's one of the main things you use as a knife maker, and invest in it. That's what you're going to be doing a lot of and using a lot more than any other tool. And then don't be afraid to invest in something that's gonna hold up and make things easier for you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. Send me their website for the grinders, and I will link it in the description after this video goes all the way up and stuff. So
good,
guys. It's been a lot of fun. It's been real. It's been fun, but it's not always real fun. So, Jared, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Like I said, if you guys are watching, if you're listening to this on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to it, there is a video link to the full video and a bunch of affiliate links and stuff down below if you're purchasing stuff. And I'll put a link to that grinder, and I will definitely put a link to Jared's Instagram. Well, I'll put his Instagram name. It's really hard to link it on YouTube, and Instagram don't play well together. They don't like you putting Instagram links in. So, guys, that's it. I'm going to end this. I'm going to count us out, and then we will head for the hills.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22. 21.
20.
19.
18.
17.
16.
15.
14. 13. 12.
11.
10.
8.
6.
6. What happened to 7?
7.
5.
4.
3.
2.
1. 0.